High Speaker Zixtal's crystalline appendages trembled as the impossible occurred in the sacred chamber of the Galactic Council. The quantum-encrypted holocamber, secure for over 10,000 cycles, flickered with unauthorized energy. The room's atmospheric processors struggled to maintain composure as reality itself seemed to bend. A human figure materialized in the center of the chamber, her military uniform adorned with the simple insignia of Earth's combined defense force. Admiral Emma Thompson stood with perfect posture, her steel-gray eyes scanning the assembled representatives of 500 spacefaring civilizations. The emergency session, called to discuss the discovery of the primitive Sol species, fell silent. Honorable representatives of the Galactic Council, Thompson's voice carried an unsettling calm. I come bearing a message from Earth and her colonies. She paused, allowing the universal translators to catch up. Any act of aggression against humanity will result in the complete extinction of all spacefaring life. The chamber erupted in overlapping voices, some translated, others raw alien sounds of disbelief and outrage. The Krex ambassador, his crystalline form glowing with indignation, raised all four appendages. You dare threaten the combined might of 500 civilizations. Your species hasn't even mastered efficient faster-than-light travel. Thompson's slight smile sent chills through the xenobiologists studying her expression. This isn't a threat, Ambassador. This is a courtesy notice. She turned to address the entire chamber. Humanity has no interest in conquest or dominion. We seek peaceful trade, cultural exchange, and mutual growth. However, her voice hardened, we have experienced enough conflict in our history to take precautions. High Speaker Zixtal moved forward, his ceremonial robes catching the light. Admiral Thompson, while we appreciate your enthusiasm for protecting your species, surely you understand that such claims without demonstration are meaningless in these chambers. I was hoping someone would say that, Thompson replied, pulling out what appeared to be a simple datapad. Please direct your attention to the Proxima Centauri system. Your sensors should have a clear view. The massive holographic display above the chamber shifted to show the familiar sight of Proxima Centauri and its planets. Several civilizations had observation posts in the system, monitoring the nearby human expansion. Thompson tapped her datapad once. The system vanished. Not exploded, not destroyed. Simply ceased to exist, leaving behind perfectly empty space as if the star and its planets had never been there. The chamber's chaos transformed into dead silence. That was an uninhabited system, Thompson continued, her voice eerily pleasant. We chose it for this demonstration precisely because it would cause no loss of life. The technology used cannot be detected, prevented, or reversed by any known means. We can deploy it anywhere in the galaxy within microseconds. The Krex ambassador's crystalline form had lost its glow. Impossible. The energy requirements alone would be beyond anything your physics can explain. Thompson nodded. Correct. We discovered some interesting shortcuts. She straightened her uniform. Humanity doesn't want to use this capability. We would much rather share our art, our music, our cultures. I personally recommend starting with our desserts. They're exceptional. The display above showed a new message, visible in all known galactic languages. This was a demonstration. We will establish an embassy on the Galactic Central Station within one standard cycle, Thompson continued. We look forward to peaceful cooperation with all species. Our representatives will arrive with gifts and friendship offerings. Her expression softened slightly. We truly do prefer peace, but make no mistake. Any action against Earth or her people will result in consequences beyond your comprehension. The hologram flickered, and Thompson's image began to fade. One final note. The technology used to deliver this message bypassed your best security measures as easily as we removed that star system. Consider that part of the demonstration as well. As her image disappeared, she left behind a final message floating in the air, looking forward to peaceful cooperation. Earth. The chamber remained silent for several minutes afterward, 500 species contemplating the implications of what they'd witnessed. Eventually, High Speaker Zixtal found his voice. I moved to fast-track Earth's embassy application. All in favor. Every appendage, tentacle, and limb in the chamber raised in unanimous agreement. Ambassador Kthrak had prepared for everything except hamburgers. The distinguished alien diplomat stood in Dr. James Harrison's Montana backyard, all three of his eyes fixed on the sizzling meat patty being casually flipped on a primitive combustion cooking device. The human called it a barbecue, and seemed completely at ease hosting representatives from 5 of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations, while wearing an apron that read "Kiss the Cook." "The secret," Harrison explained, pressing the spatula gently against the patty, "is to only flip it once. My great-grandmother's technique." He glanced up at the assembled diplomats with a warm smile. "Anyone want cheese on theirs?" The Zixan protocol officer, Verith, raised a tentacle. "Dr. Harrison, with all due respect, we came to discuss your species' ability to erase star systems from existence. And we will." Harrison nodded, adding cheese to several burgers. "But first, lunch. Can't negotiate on an empty stomach. That's another thing my great-grandmother taught me." Thrak's translator struggled with the concept of stomach, but the message was clear enough. The human was stalling? No, something else. This felt more like a demonstration. But of what? "Dad," a young voice called from the house. "The ice cream's melting." Harrison's teenage daughter, Ashley, bounded down the back steps, her long brown hair swaying. The power flicker knocked out the freezer again. "Just use a time bubble, sweetie," Harrison called back, not looking up from his grilling. "But remember to calibrate it this time. Last week you accidentally aged the rocky road by 3 centuries. The assembled diplomats watched in horror as the young human casually reached out, pinched the fabric of space-time between her fingers, and created a localized temporal stasis field around the ice cream container. The manipulation of fundamental forces that their greatest scientists had theorized might be possible in another million years of advancement had just been performed by a child who looked annoyed about having to do basic chores. "Ashley," Harrison called out, "come meet our guests." Ambassador Kthrak and his team came all the way from the Galactic Council to discuss interspecies relations. Ashley gave a small wave. "Hi. Anyone want some ice cream later? We've got vanilla, chocolate, and quantum-stabilized strawberry. Mom's recipe on that last one. She figured out how to keep the quantum foam from affecting the taste." The Medusan security chief, whose species had dedicated 10,000 years to understanding quantum mechanics, dropped his dab hat. Harrison began serving the burgers on paper plates, adding what he called the works: lettuce, tomato, onion, and several sauces. "Now then, while we eat, let's talk about that star system demonstration. Admiral Thompson can be a bit dramatic sometimes, but she means well." Kthrak found himself accepting a plate, his diplomatic training warring with his survival instincts. "Your species casually unmade an entire solar system, and you're serving us grilled meat sandwiches. Would you have preferred pizza?" Harrison asked genuinely. "We could order in. There's a great place in New York that uses quantum entanglement for delivery. Arrives even before you order it." Ambassador Verith's tentacles curled in distress. "Dr. Harrison, your species violates fundamental laws of physics as easily as we breathe atmosphere. The power required to remove a star system from existence would drain the energy of 1,000 galaxies, yet your daughter creates time distortions to preserve frozen dairy products." Harrison nodded thoughtfully, taking a bite of his burger. "That's actually why we invited you here instead of our formal diplomatic center. We wanted to show you how humans really live." He gestured around the yard. "This is us. We're not conquerors or destroyers. We're just people who figured out some interesting shortcuts in universal law." Ashley returned with a floating tray of drinks, the glasses suspended in what appeared to be a localized anti-gravity field. "Dad," Mom called. "She's running late." Had to stabilize a micro-universe in her lab. Something about the quantum constants getting wobbly. Tell her no worries, Harrison replied, then turned back to the increasingly pale diplomats. My wife's working on expanding our pocket universe storage capacity. For peace, of course. Much better to relocate aggressors than eliminate them. He offered the plate of burgers again. More, anyone? The cheese is locally sourced, from this dimension, even. Throck realized, with growing clarity, that the casual display of impossible physics wasn't incidental. It was the point. These humans weren't trying to intimidate them with their power. They were showing that such power was, to them, as ordinary as cooking meat over fire. Somehow, that was far more terrifying than any demonstration of star-ending capability could ever be. Lieutenant Michael Duke Wellington took a long sip from his steaming coffee cup as he watched the alien delegation's reactions. The Smithsonian's new interstellar wing stretched before them, its quantum glass walls shifting to display different periods of human history. So, Ambassador Cathrock's three eyes blinked in sequence. Your species went from atmospheric flight to faster-than-light travel in less than 2 centuries. 115 years, give or take, Wellington confirmed, tapping his cup. The ceramic instantly transformed into pure light, swirling between his fingers before reforming as a glass of water. The casual display made the Medusan security chief flinch. We get creative when we're rushed. The display walls shifted to show World War II aircraft alongside modern spacecraft. This bomber, Wellington pointed to a B-17, and this deep space explorer were separated by only 8 decades. Necessity is a hell of a motivator. Verth's tentacles curled in disbelief. But the energy requirements, the physical limitations, our scientists spent millennia just understanding the theoretical framework of space-time manipulation. Yeah, about that. Wellington scratched his chin. We kind of skipped some steps. Turns out if you don't know something's impossible, you might just do it anyway. He gestured to a hologram of the first lunar landing. See, we really wanted to reach the stars. Wanted it bad enough that we didn't much care about the proper order of scientific discovery. The walls shifted again, displaying humanity's first encounters with alien life alongside their technological achievements. The delegation watched in horror as the timeline compressed thousands of years of expected development into mere decades. This can't be accurate, Throck protested. Your species mastered quantum manipulation before developing efficient solar power. Funny story there. Wellington led them past a display of early computers. We had this video game, see? Some kids were trying to make it run faster on quantum processors they'd built in their garage. Accidentally discovered how to fold space-time. He shrugged. They were just trying to reduce lag in their multiplayer sessions. The security chief's translator struggled with the concept of video games as Wellington continued the tour. They passed displays of humanity's first colonies, their early conflicts, and their rapid expansion into space. Here's where it gets interesting. Wellington stopped at a large holographic display showing Earth's first contact with hostile aliens. The small trading vessel that had attempted to raid a human colony was preserved in perfect detail. This fellow thought we'd be easy pickings. Didn't work out too well for him. The ship is perfectly preserved, Verth noted. Time stasis field, Wellington explained. Same tech my niece uses to keep her sandwich fresh at lunch. We figured if we're going to have a museum, might as well keep the exhibits in mint condition. The delegation moved through displays of increasing technological advancement, each more impossible than the last. They passed children on a school field trip, the young humans casually floating above the ground using personal gravity manipulators. Lieutenant, Cathrock finally spoke, his voice heavy. Your species developed faster than any civilization in recorded history. The power you wield, it should have taken millions of years to achieve. How did you not destroy yourselves in the process? Wellington's expression grew serious for the first time. Simple. We learned pretty quick that we're real good at breaking things. Got so good at it that we had to get even better at fixing them. He gestured to a massive display showing Earth's restored ecosystems. When you figure out how to unmake stars, you tend to develop a healthy respect for creation. He turned to face the delegation directly. That's what this tour is really about. Sure, we can erase solar systems, but we prefer using that knowledge to build things, to explore, to create. He smiled, transforming his water glass back into a coffee cup. The fact that we can end all existence just means we've got a pretty good reason to preserve it. The walls shifted one final time, showing humanity's latest achievements: pocket universes housing endangered species, temporal preserves protecting lost cultures, and quantum bridges connecting distant civilizations. Besides, Wellington added, taking another sip of his coffee, "It's like my old drill sergeant used to say, if you're going to be the scariest thing in the universe, you'd better be the friendliest too. Anyone up for lunch? The cafeteria's got a great quantum-aged cheddar sandwich." The delegation followed, their reports to the council already taking shape. Humanity hadn't just broken the laws of physics, they'd casually rewritten them, all while maintaining their bizarre obsession with processed dairy products and preserved meat. The Drachnid Empire's High Commander Vexthor slammed his scaled fist against the quantum crystal table. "These humans mock us. They serve us processed meat while threatening our destruction." His war council shifted uncomfortably in the secured chamber deep within their homeworld of Drachnos Prime. The displayed hologram showed the human mining colony of New Charleston, a small settlement of barely 50,000 souls on a dusty world near the galactic rim. "Our analysis suggests their power is largely theatrical," his chief scientist reported. "No species could advance so quickly. These must be carefully staged demonstrations." Vexthor's crimson scales flickered with anticipation. "Then we shall expose their deception. Prepare the deniable assets. These pirates will test the humans' resolve." Across the galaxy, Colony Director Rebecca Beck Martinez was having a perfectly normal morning. She just finished her second cup of coffee and was reviewing the latest quantum extraction figures when her desk computer chimed. "Director, the colony's AI announced 15 unregistered vessels have emerged from hyperspace. Configuration matches known Drachnid pirate elements." Beck sighed, setting down her coffee mug. "Have they made any demands yet?" "Standard piracy threats, Director. They're demanding immediate surrender and transfer of all quantum mining rights." "Right then." Beck opened her terminal and began composing a message. "Please notify Earth Command that we have a Category 2 violation of the warning. And Sarah, hold my calls for the next 10 minutes." The lead pirate vessel's commander watched in confusion as a single text message appeared on their primary screen. "You were warned. We gave you every chance. Goodbye." Back in her office, Beck pressed a single button on her terminal. She didn't need to watch as the invading fleet simply ceased to exist. Instead, she focused on composing her incident report while taking another sip of coffee. The Drachnid War Council's celebration of their impending victory was interrupted by a priority alert. The pirate fleet had gone silent. All 15 ships, simultaneously. "Sensor data," Vexthor demanded. "None, High Commander." They simply vanished. Before Vexthor could respond, every screen in the chamber lit up with Admiral Emma Thompson's face. Her expression was almost sympathetic. "You know," she said conversationally, "we really hoped it wouldn't come to this. The paperwork is absolutely terrible." Vexthor rose, his scales blazing with fury. "How dare you? Please hold all questions until the end of the demonstration," Thompson interrupted politely. "Now, in about 30 seconds, you're going to notice something rather dramatic happening to your solar system. I want to assure you that we've already prepared accommodation for your entire species in the Centauri refugee zone." "You're bluffing," Vexthor snarled. "No power could possibly." The rest of his sentence was never completed because Drachnos Prime, along with its sun and 13 other planets, simply blinked out of existence. In their place hung a massive quantum-locked message, visible from any angle in space. "Next time, we take the whole quadrant." In the Galactic Council's emergency session 12 hours later, Admiral Thompson appeared again. This time, she was drinking tea. The good news, she announced to the stunned assembly, is that we've successfully relocated all 17 billion Drachnid citizens to their new homes. The refugee centers are quite comfortable. We included traditional Drachnid architecture and even replicated their favorite solar spectrum. The council chamber erupted in chaos. As a gesture of goodwill, Thompson continued, raising her voice slightly, we've also taken the liberty of upgrading their medical facilities. The genetic predisposition toward aggressive behavior can now be treated. Voluntarily, of course. She took another sip of tea. We find rehabilitation much more satisfying than retribution. High Speaker Zixtal finally found his voice. You eliminated an entire star system to provide them with health care and decent housing. Thompson nodded. The educational facilities are particularly nice. Would anyone like to see the brochure? Our interior decorators worked quite hard on the color schemes. As the council tried to process this information, a small alert appeared on their personal screens. It was from the Human Embassy, inviting them all to a Welcome Drachnid Refugees potluck dinner that weekend. Attendance was optional, but they were encouraged to bring a dish to share. The message was signed, "Because friends don't let friends become cosmic object lessons about why you shouldn't ignore warnings about extinction-level consequences." Major Thomas Tank Anderson watched with amusement as the Galactic Council's Special Investigation Committee tried to process what he just told them. Let me ensure our translators are functioning correctly, High Speaker Zixtal said slowly. You're claiming that your species' system erasing capability was developed by children. Middle School Science Fair Project, Anderson confirmed, cutting into the homemade apple pie he brought to the meeting. My daughter Katie and her friends were trying to win first place. The previous year's winning project on quantum tunneling had set a pretty high bar. The committee members exchanged worried glances as Anderson served them each a slice of pie. The Medusan representatives' tentacles were tying themselves in knots. But the energy requirements alone, the Krex scientist began. Oh, they didn't bother with those. Anderson chuckled, adding whipped cream to his slice. Katie said something about energy being more of a suggestion than a law. The kids found a way to sort of. He waggled his hand. Fold space sideways. To be honest, the technical details went over my head. I'm just a grunt who happens to have a genius daughter. The committee's quantum physicist, Dr. Veller, looked ready to faint. Your offspring simply ignored the fundamental laws of physics. Kids are good at that. Anderson nodded, taking a bite of pie. They don't know what's supposed to be impossible yet. Katie was more worried about her presentation layout than the fact that she'd broken reality, though she was pretty upset when they only got second place. Second place. Zixtal's crystalline form flickered in disbelief. Yeah, lost to a project on interdimensional baking. Sarah Chen's kid figured out how to make cookies that exist in 11 dimensions simultaneously. Real game changer for our food storage capabilities. Anderson offered the pie around again. This is actually made using some of that tech. Stays fresh forever and tastes like your favorite childhood memory of apple pie. The committee members stared at their plates in horror. Anyway, Anderson continued, once the military implications became clear, we figured we should probably classify the whole thing. Katie was relieved actually. Said it meant she didn't have to do the extra credit presentation. Dr. Veller found her voice. You're telling us that humanity's most devastating weapon, the capability that has reshaped galactic politics, was developed by children trying to win a school competition. Well, when you say it like that, it sounds crazy, Anderson grinned. But you should see what they come up with for their high school projects. My nephew's class just casually solved temporal paradoxes last semester. They were mainly trying to figure out a way to get more study time for tests. The committee sat in stunned silence as Anderson finished his pie. On the wall behind them, a holographic display showed the latest images from the Drachnid refugee zone, thriving communities enjoying their new quantum-stabilized homes. Look, Anderson's voice grew serious for a moment. We understand why everyone's scared. Humans are pretty good at breaking things. It's kind of our specialty. But we're even better at fixing them. That's why we didn't just erase the Drachnids. We gave them a fresh start instead. He stood and walked to the window, looking out at the earth below. You want to know what makes humans different? It's not that we're stronger or smarter. It's that we never learn to stop asking, what if? Even when the answer breaks everything we thought we knew about the universe. Turning back to the committee, he smiled. We would genuinely rather share our art, our music, our really excellent baked goods. The whole system erasing thing. That's just our way of making sure everyone stays civil enough to enjoy the pie. As if to emphasize his point, a group of school children floated past the window, their personal gravity bubbles shimmering as they played some incomprehensible game involving quantum entangled balls. Now then, Anderson clapped his hands together. Who's ready for the really mind-bending part of the story? Wait until you hear about what happened when Katie's team entered the high school science fair. Ever wonder why the Andromeda Galaxy seems a bit closer than your astronomical calculations suggest it should be? The committee's collective groan was interrupted by a chime from Anderson's communicator. Oh, excuse me. That's Katie. She's presenting her college thesis today on something about folding the universe into origami. Don't worry, though. They're using a controlled testing environment this time. Probably. Commander Olivia Nova Rodriguez sat in her office aboard the Galactic Central Station, watching ships from 100 worlds line up for what had become the galaxy's most popular trade route, the Chicago Pizza Run. Another transport from the Medusans, her AI assistant reported. They're requesting an additional cargo bay for deep dish orders. Rodriguez smiled, remembering how just 6 months ago, these same species had trembled at humanity's demonstration of power. Now they were fighting over pizza delivery slots. Tell them we can fit them in, she said, signing off on the request. And remind them about the new quantum-stabilized marinara sauce. We don't want another incident like the Great Garlic Bread shortage. The Pax Humana had transformed galactic society in ways no one had expected. Yes, humanity's ability to erase star systems had enforced peace, but it was their cooking that had won hearts, minds, and whatever organs other species used for emotional processing. Her comm unit chimed. Commander, the Drachnid Cultural Exchange Program is ready for their presentation. The main hall of the station had been transformed into an art gallery. Former warriors, their aggressive tendencies now voluntarily treated, displayed intricate sculptures made from quantum-frozen moments of time. One piece captured the exact instant of a supernova, eternally suspended between destruction and creation. The therapeutic benefits have exceeded expectations, Dr. Sarah Jones, the program's director, reported. Turns out when you're not focused on conquering the galaxy, you have time to develop other interests. Rodriguez nodded, pausing to admire a sculpture that showed all possible quantum states of a butterfly's wing beat simultaneously. And the refugee zone. Thriving. They've started exporting their new cuisine. Turns out aggressive species make exceptional chefs once they redirect that energy. Their quantum spice dishes are becoming quite popular. A group of alien children floated past, attending one of the new human-founded schools. They were learning to manipulate pocket universes by making art projects, their innocent experiments occasionally causing temporary violations of physics that their teachers quietly corrected. Commander, her eye interrupted, we have a situation at the Quantum Engineering Conference. Rodriguez sighed. Did someone try to prove human technology impossible again? No, ma'am. The Krex delegation accidentally created a recursive time loop while trying to replicate human coffee machines. Their entire panel is now experiencing Tuesday afternoon for the 17th time. Send in Katie Anderson's team, Rodriguez ordered, and get them some of that 11-dimensional coffee when they're done. The good stuff from Seattle. The station's viewing deck offered a spectacular view of humanity's latest project, a massive relocation of endangered species to custom-built pocket universes. A parade of ships carried creatures from dying worlds to new homes where the laws of physics had been carefully adjusted to match their needs. The Xenozoological Society sends their thanks, Dr. Jones said, joining her at the window. Apparently, our reckless disregard for universal constants makes us excellent conservationists. Rodriguez watched as a transport emerged from quantum space, carrying a group of crystalline beings whose homeworld had become unstable. Have the new Denver colony finished their habitat? Better than that, Jones grinned. The local high school physics club designed them an entire crystal-based ecosystem. The kids wanted extra credit. The station hummed with activity as traders, diplomats, and tourists from across the galaxy mingled freely. In one corner, a human chef taught a group of alien students how to make quantum-stabilized soufflés. In another, a former Drachnid warrior led a meditation class on temporal harmony. Sometimes I wonder, Rodriguez mused, what would have happened if we'd led with the food instead of the star-erasing demonstration? Probably the same thing, Jones shrugged. You can't separate human creativity from human power. We break physics to make better desserts and save endangered species because that's just who we are. The station's restaurants were filled with species that had once been mortal enemies, now arguing passionately about whether New York or Chicago-style pizza was superior. A nearby quantum physics conference had devolved into a cooking contest after someone claimed their universe-folding technique made flakier croissants. Next week's going to be interesting, Rodriguez noted, checking her schedule. The Galactic Baking Championship is happening at the same time as the Temporal Mechanics Symposium. Should we be worried? Probably not, Rodriguez smiled. Though we might want to have Katie's team on standby. Last year's winning dessert temporarily transformed the judges into quantum probability clouds. Delicious, apparently, but hard on the digestive system. Calamel Daniel Ghost, Matthews watched the holographic display as the Krix-Thor swarm poured through the breach in normal space. Their biomechanical ships darkened the stars like a plague of locusts, each vessel burning with the distinctive green fire of their quantum drives. They're not responding to broadcasts, his communications officer reported. Their universal translator is working. They're just ignoring us. Matthews nodded, sipping his morning coffee. And they've seen the warning, boys. They shot one. The others are transmitting footage of what happened to the Drachnid system. Well, Matthews sighed. At least we can't say we didn't try the diplomatic approach. He opened a channel to Earth Command. Permission to proceed with Operation Green Thumb. Admiral Thompson's hologram appeared, looking amused. The gardening solution. Bold choice. Ghost. Seems a waste to just erase them, ma'am. Besides, my daughter's getting into sustainable farming. Says we need more test subjects. Approved. Try not to make the soil too fertile this time. The Drachnids are still complaining about their tomatoes achieving sentience. The Krix-Thor flagship's command center buzzed with anticipation as they approached their first target. Their long-range scans had detected no significant defenses, no mighty fleets, nothing to justify the warnings they'd dismissed as propaganda. Swarm Commander Krix-Thor clicked his mandibles in satisfaction. Status of the human colony. Minimal defenses, Commander. One small orbital station. Population approximately 1 million. Excellent. Begin the harvest proto. The commander's order was cut short as reality shifted. One moment, his mighty invasion fleet was bearing down on their prey. The next, they were somehow planetside, surrounded by endless fields of green crops stretching to the horizon. Every ship, every warrior, every piece of technology had been instantaneously transformed into agricultural equipment. Matthew's voice echoed across their newly implanted universal translators. Welcome to your first day of farming school. The Krix-Thor warriors found themselves standing in neat rows, their biological weapons transformed into farming tools, their armor now comfortable overalls. Before them stood a holographic image of a smiling human teenager. Hi, I'm Emily Matthews, and I'll be your agricultural science instructor. Today we're learning about sustainable farming practices in quantum-stabilized soil. Please take notes. There will be a pop quiz later. Back on the orbital station, Matthews watched the feed with satisfaction. How's the conversion holding up? His technical officer checked the readings. Quantum patterns are stable. The transformation is permanent but comfortable. We even managed to maintain their collective consciousness. They're now a farming cooperative instead of a conquest-driven hive mind. And the ships, successfully converted into automated farming equipment. Their biomechanical technology actually makes excellent self-repairing tractors. The Galactic Council's emergency session was already in progress when Matthews arrived to give his report. The chamber was filled with nervous murmuring as representatives tried to process the latest display of human capability. Let me be clear, High Speaker Zixtal said slowly. Instead of destroying the most aggressive species we've encountered in a millennium, you turned them into farmers. Matthews shrugged, seemed ashamed to waste all that organizational ability and biological technology. Besides, their hive mind structure is perfect for coordinating crop rotation. He brought up a holographic display showing the former swarm, now happily tending vast fields of wheat, corn, and something that looked like blue cotton candy, but was apparently a quantum-stabilized superfood. The best part, Matthews continued, is that they're still expanding across systems, but now they're setting up sustainable farming colonies instead of conquering them. They're calling it the Great Agricultural Expansion. A Medusan representative raised a tentacle. But why? Why not? Matthews grinned. Earth needed more farming space, they needed a new purpose, and the galaxy needs more food security. Everyone wins. He paused, checking his notes. Though we did have to talk them down from trying to achieve photosynthesis enlightenment. Turns out when you redirect a hive mind's religious fervor toward agriculture, things get a bit intense. The council watched in stunned silence as the feed showed former Krixthor warriors carefully tending to their crops, their war chants replaced with enthusiastic discussions about proper soil faith levels. Next week, Matthews added cheerfully, we're teaching them about companion planting. They're particularly excited about the quantum-enhanced bees. High Speaker Zixtal shook his crystalline head. You turned the galaxy's most feared warriors into space farmers. Organic space farmers, Matthews corrected. They're very passionate about pesticide-free agriculture. Something about their past as a biological swarm makes them really appreciate natural farming methods. General Alexandra Stardancer Kennedy adjusted her dress uniform as she prepared to address the reformed Galactic Council, now headquartered in Earth orbit. The station's quantum glass windows showed a stunning view of humanity's latest achievement, a massive garden of solar systems, carefully arranged to form an artistic pattern visible from intergalactic distances. Ready for your speech, ma'am. Lieutenant Wellington appeared at her side, offering a cup of coffee that existed in 3 quantum states simultaneously. The council's waiting, and the Krixthor farming delegation is especially excited. They brought quantum-enhanced soybeans. Kennedy smiled, taking a sip of the probability-defying coffee. How's their latest crop doing? Their tomatoes achieved faster-than-light travel last week, but Katie Anderson's team helped them develop containment fields. They're calling it sustainable quantum agriculture. The council chamber had changed since humanity's first dramatic entrance, where once there had been rigid hierarchical seating, now representatives mingled freely. A former Drachnid warrior discussed poetry with a Medusan philosopher, while their children played with pocket universes under careful supervision. Kennedy took the podium, surveying the gathered representatives of 500 species. Above them, the original warning message still floated. Conflict means complete cosmic extinction. But now it was surrounded by children's artwork, restaurant reviews, and advertisements for interspecies cultural festivals. Distinguished representatives, Kennedy began 10 years ago. Humanity announced our presence with a demonstration of power that terrified the galaxy. Today, I'm pleased to announce we're changing the sign. The ancient warning shimmed and transformed. The new message read, Welcome to the neighborhood. Please remember to water the quantum gardens. Humanity's ultimate weapon, Kennedy continued, was never the ability to erase stars. It was our capacity to imagine something better. We looked at physics and asked why not. We saw enemies and asked why not friends. We faced extinction-level threats and wondered if they'd like to try farming instead. Holographic displays showed their achievements. The Drachnid refugee zone had become the galaxy's premier arts colony, their warriors' aggression channeled into abstract temporal sculpture. The Krixthor Swarm's former invasion fleet now conducted the galaxy's largest sustainable farming operation, their hive mind coordinating crop rotation across 3 spiral arms. Last week, Kennedy noted, a human kindergarten class accidentally discovered a new form of space-time origami while making birthday cards. Instead of classifying it as a weapon, we're using it to create pocket parks in overcrowded cities. That's who we are. She gestured to the earth below, where the lights of human civilization twinkled like stars. We could have ruled through fear. Instead, we chose to lead through pizza delivery, quantum gardening, and really good coffee. Our greatest power wasn't the ability to end existence. It was the creativity to imagine better uses for reality-breaking physics. A small alert appeared on her podium. Several Krixthor tomatoes had achieved consciousness and were requesting citizenship. She made a mental note to forward that to the agricultural department. The galaxy asked why we served barbecue while threatening extinction. The answer was simple. We never wanted to destroy. We wanted to share our food, our art, our terrible puns, and yes, our physics-breaking science fair projects. The chamber erupted in applause as the new sign flickered to life across the galaxy, replacing the old warning. High Speaker Zixtal, now sporting a Kiss the Cook apron over his formal robes, raised his crystalline appendages in approval. So yes, Kennedy concluded, humanity can still unmake reality if threatened, but we'd much rather invite you over for dinner. Speaking of which, she pressed a button, and the podium transformed into a buffet table laden with dishes from across the galaxy. The Krixthor brought their famous quantum soybeans. My daughter made probability-shifting pie, and I believe the Drachnid Poetry Club prepared something they're calling existential hot wings. As the assembled representatives mingled over interdimensional appetizers, Kennedy watched the next generation of galactic citizens play together. Human children taught alien friends to make temporal finger paintings while young Drachnids explained the principles of quantum crystalline sculpture. You know, Wellington said, joining her with a plate of non-Euclidean nachos, I don't think anyone's even thought about erasing a star system in years. Kennedy nodded, watching a group of former warrior species debating the proper timing for planting quantum-enhanced strawberries. That's the thing about humans. Give us the power to destroy existence, and we'll use it to make better gardens and start intergalactic food festivals. Speaking of festivals, Wellington checked his quantum-linked calendar. The annual Galactic Bake-Off starts next week. The Medusan team is entering something they call Schrödinger's souffle. Let's just hope it doesn't collapse the probability wave this time. Kennedy smiled. The cleanup from last year's quantum apple pie took weeks.